think is going to happen right now? You think it's going to go to 800? Like, I mean, come on. You got to be accountable to your own investment strategy. And you got to be disciplined. I always say there's two pains in this world, the pain of discipline and the pain of regret. And I'll take the pain of discipline over the pain of regret any day. Go into every investment with a specific goal that would make you happy. And honestly, I've kind of joked about this. Any entrepreneurs out there that want a new company, I give out ideas for free. I would have an exchange or some sort of trading platform that is encrypted, password protected, and locks you out of it.
Allan has started and grown several multi-million-dollar businesses. His mission is to help you do the same. Welcome to the Business Growth Pod, building the future one entrepreneur at a time.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Allan. I'm a family man, an attorney, and an entrepreneur. Each week, we provide resources and advice to help build your business. Are you ready? Then let's go. Hey everyone, welcome to the Business Growth Pod. I'm your host, Allan Draper, excited for our episode today. I'm actually welcoming back a former guest, Randall Crowder. Randall was on the Business Growth Pod at the beginning of this year. His episode dropped on February 9th, so make sure to go check that out. Randall is currently the Chief Operating Officer of Phunware, which is a technology company in Austin, Texas, and we're going to get into that a little bit. Randall is passionate about new venture creation and the innovative spirit that fuels entrepreneurs and advances technology. As an active investor and entrepreneur, he understands what it takes to successfully launch and grow new businesses, which is what we talk about all the time here. He regularly publishes articles and speaks on entrepreneurship, venture capital, healthcare, and the rise of blockchain. Randall holds a BS from the United States Military Academy at West Point and an MBA from the Macomb School of Business. Welcome to the show, Randall. Glad to have you back, my man.
Man, glad to be back. I know we were just talking before we started. I can't believe it's been a year, but I felt like the last time we could have probably talked for another couple of hours. So I'm glad we get a chance to catch back up. It's been a crazy year, huh?
Yeah, I remember that conversation, and it doesn't feel like it was a year ago, but you're a really interesting guy. And I think a lot of that's because of your diverse background. You just have like a bunch of like unique experiences and like your education and like what you guys are doing at Phunware, you know, and you're just really informed. I caught on to that like the first time we chatted. I'm like, dude, this guy knows like something about everything. So should be a good conversation.
My wife will tell you I'm a good bullshitter, but yeah, I like the way you said it better.
Yeah, that's the thing is that, you know, and we're going to actually get into this a little bit. We're going to get into bullshitters a little bit today. Let's do a recap on where you guys are with Phunware. I understand what it is because I'm familiar with it and I've seen some of your guys' videos on your website. Bring me down to like maybe a 5,000 foot view of what Phunware is just for like the layperson.
Yeah, no, that's it. This is exciting for us. I know we're going to talk a lot about stocks here in a second, but like for us, it really is the future. You know, we've been around for 13 years. When we first started the company, nobody had mobile apps. The smartphone was just coming out. We bet the company on let's help big brands build mobile apps. So we built the first NFL app, the first NASCAR app, all of Fox's mobile applications. We did the Sochi Olympics. We've done a presidential election. And now we find ourselves in another kind of switch. You know, back then it was transition from web to mobile. Now everybody's got mobile. Everybody understands mobile. But really now what brands are struggling with is how do I get more out of my mobile application? Like if we live in a mobile first world that's quickly feeling mobile only, and that's how we get most of our information, it's not good enough just to like give people content. You know, yeah, we're going to still binge watch Netflix and fight with people on social media about dumb shit like, you know, mask mandates. But the reality is what brands are trying to figure out is how to better engage you through that mobile app, how to get your attention and how to engage you. And e-com has known this for a long time. Like if you think about the abandoned cart problem, you know, I'm looking for something, I want to buy it, I put it in my cart, and then, you know, my wife yells at me and I forget all about it. And, you know, by the time I get around to it, you know, it's gone or I never buy it. We have that same problem in the real world, and that's what brands are struggling with. So we have the abandoned cart of the mind. You know, you're walking around, you want to do something, you want to buy something, you want to sign up for something, how do you get people in that moment before they forget, before they move on? So we do that through a mobile application. So like a good example, right after we talked, we launched at Atlantis down in the Bahamas. So we basically map their entire island. So one of the cool features of our ecosystem is location software. We can find a mobile device both indoors and outdoors, sub 1 meter accuracy. So like I would know what table you're at, not only what table you're at in a casino, but what seat you're sitting in. And I can engage you with any content I want if you use our platform. So what Atlantis uses it for is like booking. So when you're walking around this 140 acre island and you're walking past the stingray encounter, we can give you content on that stingray encounter and get you to book tickets in that moment so that you're not just like seeing a poster and then forgetting about it when you go about your trip. They made like $50,000 the first couple of days. They had the app live. They made over $500,000 within the first couple of months. And they're realizing that, we live in an on-demand world with ADD. If you don't get people when they're willing to pay attention, you may lose them forever. And so we're all about contextual engagement. How do you get the right content to the right person on the right screen at the right time in the right place? And that's typically through a mobile app.
So how can Phunware help like a startup, that has limited resources? We all want to get our companies in front of our, prospective customers or clients' eyes and get their attention. How are startups able to do that with Phunware?
Yeah, it's tougher. So part of that's on us, right? We talk about innovation and I love innovation. And so traditionally, our stuff is not cheap because we do it for some of the world's most recognizable brands. A big industry that we have right now is healthcare. Healthcare and hospitality are the ones that kind of have really embraced this a lot, this idea of digital transformation. It's expensive. So typically we've been working on kind of Fortune 500 type opportunities. That being said, you're 100% right. This desire to, make money, save money, or get more out of your money is universal. Small businesses need it as well. Entrepreneurs need it. Startups need it. How can we take our platform, which we know works, and extend it to those markets? We're working on that. So jury's still out. We're trying to build platforms that would be more of a light version of what we offer. And so that is hopefully going to be rolling out in 2023, where we can really target kind of the startup and SMB space. Not cheap, but can definitely piggyback off of some of our existing ecosystems. And this goes to I think what a lot of your listeners think about, that product market fit. So right now, we deploy mobile applications for a brand like Atlantis. You can download that right now. That's their own application. That's the expensive part of it. What if, you take the OpenTable approach? With OpenTable, everybody wants reservations, but are you going to have an app for every single restaurant you go to? Of course not. So OpenTable becomes that persistent mobile application, and then every business just has a profile. We're going to try to do the same thing for engagement. So, we're going to try to we'll build one app for everybody. And then maybe a startup can use that for its own engagement activities because we've built some really cool proprietary switching software. So we did it for a hospital, actually, Mayo, as one of our customers. They had multiple buildings, but they needed entirely different features and entirely different experiences. So we can basically reskin one mobile application to make it look like totally different applications based on your location. Now we're going to do that based on your business. So it'll feel like it's your mobile app, but it's all under our, one roof effectively. So that might be able to bring that price point down. So, check back in kind of into Q1. Hopefully we'll be rolling out some new features for kind of the startup community.
Yeah, I think that's a great point because a lot of small and medium-sized businesses don't necessarily have a reason why their customer would have just their app on their phone, which is a really big deal. I have some rental properties and I have virtual locks, so people have to download an app. And I don't know how many times people expressed how frustrated they were that they had to download an app. But I felt like the days of storage limitations on phones were over, but I guess not. So that's awesome that you guys are making that pivot.
That's what we struggle with as well. Is what is that first catalyst to get you to, download something and why? So, and we test things all the time. And I would encourage, any entrepreneurs, before you really dive into building and product roadmap, Figure out what a POC looks like. Figure out what an MVP looks like. See what people, customers will tell you what they want and what they'll pay for. And sometimes it'll surprise you what they'll tell you. A lot of what, our value proposition is for these large distributed resorts, we're rolling out across Gaylord Hotels, which is the top 5 of the top 10 largest non-gaming convention centers in the US, Marriott properties. There are millions of square feet that we've kind of tech enabled and created this location structure to. That's the don't get lost value proposition. Some people will download that for the discovery and walking around and making sure they know where to go. Other people are like, I'm not going to get lost. And so they won't. So we're also going to be testing wait times. So, hey, download this app. Don't worry. If you don't get lost, that's fine. But don't you want to know what the average wait time is for restaurants or rides or events? And so we'll see, and so there's the MVP version of that, which will just give people some information. And then there's a fully integrated, dialed into their POS systems, dialed into their cloud, back-end cloud that we can, enable. But I'm not going to spend all that money building that if people don't want it. So I'm going to test it first. And so, but you're right. Why do I want to download the app? What is the value you're going to give me? And then, will I keep the app on my phone or will I just uninstall it?
Yeah, 100%. I wanted to shift gears. We've got about 15 minutes left. Just because, as I was saying earlier, you just seem to be a wealth of knowledge. You seem to have your hands in quite a few different areas. And, the world's kind of been following FTX scandal and everything that happened with that. And then just recently, I started listening to this podcast called Bad Bets, Wall Street Journal produced, and it tells the story of what happened with Nikola, which Nikola, for the listener that doesn't know, they claim to had produced a hydrogen-powered semi-truck. And they were at one point, I think they had like a 30 to 40 billion valuation. I know that whatever it was at that, the height of that frenzy, that they had a valuation. Check this out, Rand. I don't know if you knew this. Their valuation, their market cap was higher than Ford's. But the kicker is that they never brought anything to market. And I have a friend that I've known for a couple of decades that he was involved in the seed round. And so he was talking about it a lot. I bought quite a few shares in it, and I've been listening. The facts come to light. He just recently just in the last couple of weeks, found guilty on 3 of 4 counts of fraud. He's getting sentenced. This is Trevor Milton, the founder of Nikola. He's getting sentenced. I think it's the 26th of January. So we're about 5 or 6 weeks away from that. And in light of what's happening with FTX, what is it, man? Why? Nikola reminds me a lot of Theranos. If people remember Theranos, it's very similar. And I was talking to my wife about this, and she said, well, Theranos has just this little edge on them in kind of how bad it was because it was health related, right? It never worked and it was giving people false health data. Besides that, these are like side-by-side comparison.
If you get a chance, I think on Hulu, it's called The Dropout, and on Netflix, it's called The Inventor, Out for Blood in Silicon Valley. But that goes into the Theranos, debacle. But the themes are the same, right? I don't care if it's FTX, Theranos, or Nikola. People want to believe. It's easy to dupe people. It's sad. And it's crazy how many smart people get duped. Like, people just want to believe. Like, we are not as cynical as the media makes us seem. Like, you would seem like the world's just pissed off and everything else. But man, we love to romanticize stuff. We love like that champion. And when people are pretty slick and a good talker, they'll line up. And it's crazy how we almost have this lobotomy and people don't do the necessary diligence to be like, wait a minute, like, how hard would it be to figure out if there's a hydrogen-powered semi-truck? Like, that's not that challenging to figure out if this stuff works or not. I mean, it's crazy to me. I mean, FTX, these kids are partying in the Bahamas, running an exchange on QuickBooks. Like, nobody thought to like meet with them. Like, I was a venture capitalist for a decade. My average time between meeting an entrepreneur and deploying capital was like 11.3 months. Like, I'm going to meet you. I'm going to meet your family. I want to know what you do when shit gets tough. Like, I'm not just going to be like, oh, cool. Some crazy haired 20-something who like managing billions of dollars. Like, you seem credible. Like, what? Like, it's bonkers to me. But now it's an opportunity. I think for people listening, what they need to realize is if you're freaking out in a down market, you're not building generational wealth. The reality is that the people you want to be like hate bull markets. It's like, oh, here we go again. Stocks are running. But then when that panic button hits and there's a sell-off, the funds that you want to be like, they're buying. Retail's panicking. They're selling everything they got. At the end of the day, I love this quote from Warren Buffett. The best chance to deploy capital is when things are going down. And nobody realizes this, that like you find companies that actually do have something, and something is kind of talk to their customers, find their customers. Like, I champion Phunware all the time, but like, Atlantis is not a business that's just going to say, oh, well, you can dupe us. We've worked with Fox, NASCAR, NFL, like, we have a very real thing, but we struggle with the stock market and with what's going on. And there's all these really interesting opportunities to generate more wealth in a down market than in an up market. Like, people will literally have their buddy tell them about a deal. It's already run 200%. They'll be like, I'm going to get in at 3 and this thing's going to go to 6. And then it doesn't. And then all of a sudden, a couple of months later, that stock is at $1. And they're like, oh man, screw that. I'll wait till it's at 3 and go into 6. It's like, dude, invest at $1. And when it recovers to 3, you'll 3x your money. And then when it goes to 6, you'll 6x your money rather than only 2xing your money, jumping in, YOLOing, and getting that FOMO going. And so I always use this with Phunware, like even our stock. If you've been investing over the last 3 years, there's been multiple times 2, 3, 9x your money. And even recently, even though we've been in a downtrend, there's been multiple times where, I'll take 1.6x my money. I'll take 1.4x my money. I'll take 1.5x my money. And that's just in the last 3 months. And so paying attention to when stocks trade down, but that they have the ability to have that amplitude to go back up, that's how you make money. And then you look in the macro and you say, okay, well, wait a minute, what's going on here? Like every time there's this falling wedge pattern, there's this accumulation, then that amplitude of that next breakout is increasing almost exponentially as you go. All right, what do I think is going to happen next? And so I'm excited about what could happen with our stock next. It's a hell of an entry point right now, but people should be thinking about that, not freaking out when stocks go down. Really think, oh my God, this is an opportunity for me to start building generational wealth, because that's what funds are doing. Funds aren't investing up here. Like, retail investors do that. They're like, oh my God, this thing just 10x. I'm going to YOLO into it. Well, dude, it's not going to 10x again. That's when you sell. And so, I think people just need to educate themselves on how these things work and why they do what they do, and then emulate what the Warren Buffetts of the world do.
Yeah, what's interesting, and just for our listener, real quick, Randall referred to a diagram that he put up. He shared his screen, and so in order to see that, if you're listening to just audio, just make sure to go to my YouTube channel. It will be up there on this episode. But the saying is so simple: you make money when you buy, not when you sell. And it's just overlooked, right? More millionaires are made during times of recession than at any other period in history. And it's interesting because I think the hype is backward. I think that we should be hyping stocks falling, not these crazy increases like what happened with Nikola, where they got to that. I can't remember if it was a $30 or $40 billion market cap, which also it's ridiculous now anyway, because they didn't have the technology that they claimed to have. They literally towed a truck up a hill in Utah and just let it roll down. And that was kind of the clincher for his trial and stuff like that. And I got burned. I bought a lot of Nikola, and I think I owe some people an apology on my social media because I was hyping it. And what do you think of this rule of thumb, Randall? If they don't have a go-to-market product, there should be a little more due diligence. Like, hey, when is go-to-market? Like,
yeah, it really is. We always hear these kind of Ponzi scheme is such a negative term, but it's almost like that is the stock market. You're betting that somebody else will want what value you're creating or what value you currently own. And that will keep happening as long as people always get in this argument about the dollar. They're like, man, there's no gold in a mountain. Like, the dollar isn't backed by gold. The dollar is backed by faith in America. Like, it is a direct reflection on the fact that I think that if you give this to me, it still will be worth something. And as long as we both agree that it's worth something, it's worth something. The same thing with cryptocurrency. If you think it's worth something, it is, until it's not. And so I think that happens with these stocks. I like to, what you said, I like to default to substance. Show me a customer using it. And that's just my natural curiosity. I want to think about that product market fit. So I don't like betting on something really ambiguous. But look, the world needs that, right? Elon Musk is betting on colonizing Mars. My mind, like, okay, that's interesting. And because of what he's done in his life, people are willing to take that bet. People don't realize how valuable SpaceX is and how valuable what he's doing is. Now, is that turning into, direct revenue and profitability and all this other stuff that a lot of people would use to evaluate the substance of a company? No, it's a lot of vision and promise. And then, all of a sudden somebody like Milton comes along and everyone's like, oh man, it's another Elon Musk. Dude, no, he's not. I could tell you that right out of the gate. He's not even close. And so, but people want to believe, they want to be told a story.
What's funny is that you saying that reminded me of that part in the movie about Facebook where Sean Parker says something about how people don't want to take a picture of like catching 100 little fish. They want a picture of one huge fish. And I think we invest like that sometimes. So people are, and I'm speaking from my perspective a little bit here because I got suckered into Nikola, and there are people that lost a lot more money than I did and are in a lot worse shape. But I think the thought process is, hey, we don't know everything, but that's part of the risk. Like, in order to find that unicorn, like, you can't wait until you know everything. But geez, man, there was never a product ever. And the interesting thing is that he got this deal with GM. So he gets this deal. I don't know how he's a wizard or something. I don't know how he did it, but he gets a deal with GM to produce the Badger, and he has zero technology. And in some cases, a lot like Theranos, if you remember, Theranos was using other company technology and kind of scrubbing the name off of the equipment and processing the blood samples and stuff through there. He was using technology from other manufacturers and like covering up the brand names and stuff.
What's funny too, I think we talked about this last time. I love like platforms like yours because, and like Bad Bets is being open and honest with your vulnerabilities, being open and honest with your mistakes. Like, it gives other people license to do the same, because that's one of the biggest things, this like imposter, I call it the imposter syndrome, but like for other people, like not yourself. Like, everyone's trying to keep up with the Joneses. They're overspending to try to make it seem like they're a certain thing or a certain way. There was this really interesting study that Harvard did that was basically, asking people if they would rather live in a place where they had income of 50,000, but the average person had income of 25,000, or where they have an income of 100,000 in a place where the average income is 200,000. And like over half responded they would rather have 50,000. Like, they would rather accept half as much money in the absolute than in the second option, so that they could like make twice as much as their neighbor. Like, it's bonkers, like that's how people think. But like, the same thing happens in the stock. Like, they don't want to, even if they worry about it, they don't want to tell anybody they made a mistake. And so they keep hyping it. No, this is going to be great. It's going to be great. And you don't tell people, hey, I have concerns. And it just takes on a life of its own. And so look at GameStop. I mean, nuts how people want to believe and they want to be part of something, but at the end of the day, just want to make money. And so as long as it keeps going up, they don't care why, they don't care how. And then the minute it goes down, oh, this is bullshit. It's like, you're part of the problem.
Yeah. And the effect that retail traders have just with this like social movement and with Reddit, I mean, that's another crazy story, how they were able to drive that somewhat overvalued stock. I mean, it got to a point where it was just ridiculous and people were still buying. But that's the thing. And I think that's a great message for today. When everyone else is buying, and Buffett said something about this, when everybody else is afraid, you should be, optimistic and you should be getting in or whatever. And that's what happened is a lot of people got really pissed about the GameStop scenario because they bought into the hype. But by the time there's hype, you're too late. There were people that were smart about it. And they're like, okay, this stock is ridiculous. I think it got into the 400s when it should be around $20 or something. And they're still buying.
Think is going to happen right now? You think it's going to go to 800? Come on. You got to be accountable to your own investment strategy. And you got to be disciplined. I always say there's two pains in this world, the pain of discipline and the pain of regret. And I'll take the pain of discipline over the pain of regret any day. Go into every investment with a specific goal that would make you happy. And honestly, I've kind of joked about this. Any entrepreneurs out there that want a new company, I give out ideas for free. I would have an exchange or some sort of trading platform that is encrypted, password protected, and locks you out of it. Like, it trades without your ability to control it. So you invested $1, you go in there and go, you know what? Knowing everything I know about this company, I'd be happy if I 3x my money. You input the trade, you leave it alone, and it locks you out. And even when it gets to like 2 and you're like, no, it's going to go to 5. No, it trades at 3 no matter what. Because you're your own worst enemy when you're trading. I was like, if you feel the need to rush to the computer and log in because you think something's about to happen, go walk your dog. Whatever you're about to do, you're going to mess it up. You're going to sell too early, sell too late. You're going to change something. Just understand what you're willing to take. And then stop FOMOing in, stop doing silly things. Just if stock doubles or triples, be happy with that. And even if it 5Xs or 6Xs, don't be like, oh my God, I could have made so much more. You just doubled or tripled your money. That's good. Take that, take your principal out. Now you're playing with the winnings, and then go invest in something else, or double down then.
Yeah, it reminds me of kind of the gambling mentality where, you double your money and before you're like, hey, I'm just having fun. If I make anything at all, that's bonus because this is, my entertainment for the night. But then you double your money. And that's, I think, this mentality, Randall, I think this is why casinos eventually always win,
House
right?
always wins.
Yeah, because they can't walk away. I always used to think that people that put a lot of money out on the table, those were the guys that were really courageous or deliberate or whatever. But it's the people that actually walk away when they're up. Those are the rare folks.
Yeah, man. I always say it in sports too. It's like when people retire after winning the Super Bowl, I'm like, good for you, man. Walk out on top. Because just it pains me to watch people just keep slowly declining. But it's funny, whether it's casinos or I also talk about this with data. People don't accept all of their own just bullshit and limitations. And they always think there must be something up. Casinos don't need to cheat you. You cheat yourself. There's no magnet in the roulette wheel. There's no hiding cards. Vegas is very regulated, and it makes money because of human behavior that is predictable as anything. And so they don't need to cheat you because you're going to cheat yourself. Data, they're not listening to you. You're just so predictable, and it's easy to understand. Okay, if you search for this, if you do this, if you're this age, if you're from this, you can machine learn a human being in a weekend. And it's yep, that's what they're going to do. And guess what? We think we're all, our free will is whatever. Your free will is curated for you by technology companies. Does anybody know about the genocide in Armenia? No. There's no money in it, and media didn't cover it, but it happened. There's shit happening around this world that we don't know about because people don't deem it necessary for us to know about. And so we don't know about it because we only receive what we're given. And I think a lot of people just, they give companies too much credit. Humans are pretty predictable.
So as we're wrapping up here, Randall, I want kind of the final blurb about Phunware and where people can reach out to you. And then I want you to touch on where beginning investors or entrepreneurs, what they should be looking for in 2023.
Yeah, good question. So I'm easy to find, Instagram at Randall Crowder, 2 L's, LinkedIn, Randall Crowder, Facebook, Randall Crowder. I'm Randall Crowder on Twitter, but don't write there because I can't remember my password. Elon just moved to Austin, so I got to see if he can get me back into that account. On Twitter, I'm at Crowder Official for now. And then Phunware.com, PHUNWARE.com. You can find all sorts of stuff on Phunware there. When it comes to investing, you got to race your own race and you got to do your own diligence. You really need to find things that you can hold. I think, and I'm just talking about for your own sanity. If you're investing to make rent money, I mean, I can't help you. That's just, you might as well go to Vegas and gamble, but investment shouldn't be as stressful as it becomes. Usually people, over-index into certain things. They don't diversify enough and they need that money. So when stocks go down, oh shit. If you take Bitcoin and you actually look at it, on average, if you're able to hold at least 3 years, no one's ever lost money. And the same thing is kind of true for the S&P. I'm sure there's a number proxy to that exact same comment. If you zoom out, the S&P has gone up and to the right since it was created. If you zoom out, Bitcoin has gone up and to the right since it was created. Every major asset that everybody's super excited about right now is going up and to the right in the macro. In the micro, it goes up and down, and it's real painful. And you're like, oh my God, this is it. Until I see zombies running around, this is not it. I'm going to assume that history will repeat itself. Markets will go down. Everyone will freak out. Everyone, because we're super selfish, vain beings, will say, this is it. This is the big one. Okay, well, it never is. It hasn't been so far. I mean, I can't imagine that right now is worse than what they went through in the Great Depression. I don't think the Great Recession in 2009 was as bad as what they went through in the Great Depression. And so I think we will continue to exist until we make a really critical mistake, and whether that's AI or virus or some sort of hacking of the power grid. Until that happens, the S&P is going to keep going up and to the right. And so I would just assume, when you see the market go down, that's when you should place your bets. So anybody that's getting into investing now, man, I'm jealous, because this is a great time to be buying anything at this point. I mean, everything's so depressed. But be careful, because next year, people are thinking about a recession. That recovery that you're looking for might not happen next year. It might be 2024. So you need to be able to think about building out a position over, think of it like a mutual fund, maybe, deploy some capital every month into stocks you like. You can just invest in Apple if you want, and, invest in, Tesla if you really love it. Every stock is so depressed, chances are it'll be up higher in a couple of years. And so, get to know the companies that you're investing in. What's your personal thesis? What do you think they're doing? Why is it interesting to you? What is the maximum amount of capital you want to deploy? And then what percentage of capital do you want to deploy in different areas? And then, be willing to hold it, because stock market might continue to go down. Don't be like, oh my God, it's going down. I better sell now and get out, and then I can rebuy. Just make your investment, let it sit, and just close your laptop, come back in 2 years, say thank you.
Exactly. Love it. Buy low, be patient. Love it. Thanks so much for joining us today, Randall. Good luck with everything, man. We'll be in touch.
Appreciate you, brother. Happy holidays.
If you have enjoyed today's podcast, please leave us a rating. And for daily inspiration and business tips, follow Allan on Instagram. Until next time, remember, we build the future one entrepreneur at a time.